Continue to crochet motif 3. Let's see the finished product. Motif 3 is crocheted in rounds using the magic ring method. The color scheme for motif 3 is identical. The new stitch techniques used are SC2-in-1, DC2-in-1, FPDC. Now watch me demonstrate the specific crocheting method. Everyone start with the magic ring and finish the first round. The method used is similar to motif 2. The sample here is already finished with the first round. Now let's crochet the second round. First, make 1 chain to begin. Next, work 1 SC2-in-1, which means crocheting 2 single crochets into the same stitch. As you crochet, weave in the beginning yarn tail along the way. One, 2. SC2-in-1 completed. In this round, each stitch corresponds to 1 SC2-in-1. We'll use the same method. Continue crocheting until the last SC2-in-1. Then join with a slip stitch to the first single crochet. Pull tight. This completes the second round. Once done, stretch the loop. Place the yarn tail on top of the piece so it doesn't interfere with crocheting. Now continue to crochet the third round. This round requires a color change. Take the new yarn. Locate a single crochet on the right side of the connection point. Right here. We'll join the yarn from this position. This completes the connection. Continue crocheting normally downward. First, make 3 chains. Then work 2 double crochets into the same stitch. This creates a special DC3-in-1 in this position. Skip the next stitch below and leave it unworked. Continue by working 1 DC3-in-1 into the left stitch. Remember to keep the yarn tail positioned above at all times. Finish with 1 chain as the connection. Continue downward by working 1 DC3-in-1 into the adjacent stitch. The pattern for this round is: after completing 2 DC3-in-1, skip 1 stitch below. Position of the chain. Work into the space between the two, unskip DC3 and 1. Everyone complete this. When completely done, join with a slip stitch to the turning chain. This completes round 3. Now work on round 4. No color change is needed here. First, work one slip stitch into the right side chain space. After completing, make 3 chains. Then skip 2 chain spaces. Leave the beginning chain unworked after completing. Work 1 double crochet into the left side double crochet. After completing, begin the DC2 in 1, which means working 2 double crochets into the same stitch. One, 2. This completes the DC2 in 1. Everyone follow the chart to complete this round. This finishes round 4. After completing, stretch the loop. Leave the yarn aside for later use. Next, work on round 5. This round is worked into the remaining stitches from round 2. Continue crocheting with the reserved yarn. First, make 1 chain. You can see there's 1 stitch still skipped here. We will work 1 single crochet at this position. Next, find the double crochet on the right side of the chain space on round 4's left side upper area. It's right here. We will pick up the post of this double crochet and work 5 double crochets. Be careful not to pick up any other stitches. After completing the 5 double crochets, we will work 4 double crochets into the stitch of this same double crochet. Then work 1/2 double crochet after completing. Continue by picking up the chain space, and work 1 single crochet. Now we move to the other side. The stitches on these two sides are symmetrical. First, work 1/2 double crochet, and then 4 double crochets into the double crochet. This part is now completed. Continue by picking up the double crochet post and work 5 double crochets. This completes 1 clover petal. Repeat the clover petal pattern afterwards. Pay attention to the insertion point of the single crochet below. It should be worked into the remaining stitch from round 2. Keep crocheting until you reach the last clover petal. When you reach the connection point, continue crocheting as usual. Place the yarn tail underneath. Finally, work 5 double crochets into the starting chain. After completing, join with a slip stitch to the first single crochet. Pull tight. Then work 1 chain to secure. Make sure to weave this yarn tail properly. This completes round 5. Now let's work on round 6. Continue crocheting normally with the previous yarn. No new stitch techniques are used in this round. Remember to move the first stitch to the left side chain space at the beginning. Follow the chart and crochet round 6 properly. This is what it looks like after completing round 6. Next, work on round 7. First, make 3 chains as the beginning chain. Then work 2 more double crochets into the large space. Including the starting chain, you've already made 3 stitches here. Continue with the 4th stitch. Work it at the position of the starting chain. Before crocheting, press down the clover shape flat. Next, yarn over the hook. Pick up the back strand of the second double crochet stitch. And also the starting chain. Work this double crochet together. This secures one corner of the clover. Continue crocheting downward, all the way to the left side chain space position. Now you've reached the corresponding position. Next, work a double crochet into the adjacent stitch on the left. And secure the clover in the same way. Yarn over the hook. Pass through the clover stitch position together. The back strand of the second double crochet and the double crochet. Work 1 double crochet. This secures one side. Next, finish the corner position. Now you need to secure the other side of the clover. The clover is symmetrically secured on both left and right sides. Same as before, pick up the back strand of the second double crochet counting from the left. And the double crochet. This completes the securing of one full clover. From now on, follow this same method. Crochet the corresponding stitches and secure the remaining clovers, and the securing positions are always counted from the corner towards both sides. At the 4th stitch, complete this round. This finishes round 7. Continue to round 8. This round also has no new stitch techniques. Refer to the chart and crochet accordingly. Pay attention that except for the 3 double crochets at the corner position, the insertion points for the other 3 double crochets are in the gaps between the 2 double crochets. After crocheting, fasten off and weave in the ends. This is what it looks like after finishing round 8. Now crochet round 9. This round requires a color change. Take the corresponding color. Then join the yarn at any corner position. Here, I'm joining the yarn at the right side corner, where I fastened off in the previous round. After attaching the yarn, make 1 chain as the beginning chain. Then work 2 single crochets into this large space. As you crochet, weave the yarn tail into the stitches. Continue crocheting single crochets into the double crochets, chain spaces, and beginning chains. Keep crocheting until reaching the chain space next to the 3 double crochets in the middle. Now I've reached the corresponding position. Here, you need to pick up the insertion points of these 3 double crochets. For the double crochets post on both sides, make FPDCS. For easier explanation, we'll call it FPDC from now on. First, crochet the first FPDC, yarn over, insert the hook from front to back here. Then exit through the space on the left side. Note that here you pick up the entire post. Yarn over. Draw the yarn through. Then complete this stitch as a regular double crochet. One FPDC is done. In other words, the FPDC is worked the same way as a regular double crochet, it's just that the insertion position is different. Not picking up stitches to insert the hook, but on the front side, pick up the corresponding stitch from right to left and work into it. The stitch that corresponds to the FPDC is left unworked. Then continue by making 1 single crochet in the adjacent stitch. After completing that, work the second FPDC, yarn over. Pick up the entire double crochet post from right to left. Pull through 1 double crochet. This completes the second FPDC. This FPDC corresponds to the double crochet behind it. Again, this stitch is not worked into. Next, work single crochets into the chain spaces and stitches. When reaching the corner, work the corresponding number of single crochets and chains. Follow the previous demonstration. Complete round 9 with crocheting. Finally, join with a slip stitch to the first stitch. Pull tight. Once done, weave in the ends. Round 10 is crocheted similarly to round 7. For this round, you'll need to join the yarn. Then continue crocheting. Work double crochets and chains. Complete round 10 as well. Once finished, break the yarn and weave in the ends. This is what motif 3 looks like when completed. Make sure to finish all your motif 3 pieces. That's all for the motifs up to this point. Once all motifs are done, you'll need to sew them together. Divide into front and back pieces. Both front and back have 6 motifs. Start by sewing together one side. First arrange them in position according to the finished product, or you can adjust the motif positions based on your preference. Sew horizontally first, then vertically. First take the corresponding yarn. Thread the needle. Make a knot at the end of the yarn. We'll insert the needle through the chain. Sew through the middle of the connection point. This secures the yarn in place. You can sew this part twice. Then pick up the stitch and sew. Sewing is done one stitch to another. We'll continue sewing downward. Now we've reached the corner position. Pick up the large chain space and sew one stitch. Then thread through the large space on the left side and sew one stitch. Now continue with normal sewing. We'll sew this row completely. Now we've reached the final position. Sew twice through the chain again. Then weave in the ends on the wrong side. This completes the horizontal sewing. Now sew the 2 vertical gaps going downward using the same method. If you're off by 1 or 2 stitches in the middle, it's okay, just keep it flat. Everyone should sew the front and back pieces together. After sewing the motifs, now we'll crochet the edges. The crocheting method for each size's side is identical, only the number of rows differs. We'll start with the left side of one piece. First, crochet the first row on the left side. When crocheting, keep the right side facing you. The left and right here are determined with the right side facing you. We'll start by joining the yarn in the topmost chain space. Take the corresponding yarn. This way the yarn is joined. Then chain 3 to begin. After completing that, work 2 double crochets into this large space. When crocheting, weave the yarn tail into the stitches. After finishing, make 1 chain. Then skip the next 3 stitches underneath without crocheting. Start crocheting double crochets into the 4th stitch, which is right here. Continuously work 3 double crochets and 1 chain. We consider these 3 double crochets as 1 leaf. Then skip the next stitch underneath without crocheting. Repeat crocheting the leaf and chain afterward. The chain corresponds to the double crochet below, no need to crochet it. Continue crocheting until reaching the corner of the motif. Now we've reached the corner. There's still 1 double crochet left unworked here. There are a total of 3 chains here. We pick the middle chain using both strands. Work 1 double crochet. Then insert into the approximate position of the junction and work 1 double crochet. After finishing, continue picking the left side of the motif. Hook 1 double crochet into the middle braid using both strands. This completes the leaf at the seam. Chain 1. The corresponding double crochet for this chain is left unworked. Continue starting from the 2nd double crochet to work the leaf and 1 chain. Skip the stitch corresponding to the chain. Keep crocheting until reaching the 2nd to last leaf. Now I've reached the corresponding position. Here we skip 3 stitches. Then work 1 leaf into the large space. This completes the first row. Start working the second row after completing this. First, make 3 beginning chains. Then 1 chain space. Turn the work over. Work a leaf into each chain space going downward, with 1 chain space in between. Finally, work 1 double crochet into the turning chain of the first row. At this point, one side of the small size is completed. For other sizes, a few more rows need to be worked. Different sizes are achieved by adjusting the number of rows on the side to change the bust measurement. I'll just fasten off the yarn here. Leave a yarn tail of about 1.5 meters and fasten off. The left side of one panel is now completed. When working the right side, keep the right side facing you. The joining point here is at the bottom right corner. The method is exactly the same. What you need to pay attention to is that after finishing the right side, do not leave a yarn tail, just fasten off directly. For the left sides of both the front and back panels, leave a yarn tail of about 1.5 meters before fastening off. This makes it easier for connecting later. Please refer to the chart and complete both sides of the front and back panels. Once both sides are completed, it's time to connect them. Start connecting with the previously reserved yarn tail. First, place the 2 pieces with their right sides facing each other. Start connecting from the wrong side. Align the sides properly. Pull the reserved yarn tail through the large space. Make 1 beginning chain to start. Then work 1 single crochet into this large space. After completing, connect with 3 chains. Next, insert into the chain spaces of both pieces. Work 1 single crochet through both layers. After completing, continue by making 3 chains. This connection is made with a single crochet and 3 chains. Follow this method to continue connecting downward. Finally, work 1 single crochet through the chain space at the edge. After completing, make 1 chain to secure. Next, pull the yarn tail through. Then weave the excess yarn tails. That's how to connect one side. Everyone follow the same method to connect the other side. That's all for the side connections. Now that the sides are connected, it's time to work on the hem. Let's look at the finished product. The hem is crocheted in rounds around the front and back pieces. We'll start by joining the yarn at the connection point on the back motif. With the motif facing up, join the yarn through the chain space at the bottom right corner. That's how you connect it. After joining the yarn, make 3 chains. Then work into this large space. Continue by working 2 double crochets and 1 chain. The crocheting method going down is similar to the method used for the sides. Start by skipping the next 3 double crochets. Then keep repeating, work a leaf and 1 chain. Underneath the chain, skip 1 stitch. At the junction of the motifs, at the top corner positions of the left and right motifs, pick the middle chain space, work 1 double crochet into each of the 2 strands. Also work 1 double crochet at the middle junction. Following the chart, we'll keep crocheting until reaching the 3rd motif's corner. Now I've reached the corresponding position. The 3 double crochets at the corner are done. Next is 1 chain. Pick up the large space on the side and work a leaf. Continue with 1 chain. After that, work a leaf and 1 chain again. Insertion position, in the large space on the left side. Moving down to the front motif position. The crocheting method is the same as for the back piece. Everyone, crochet this round completely. When done, join with a slip stitch into the beginning chain. For other sizes, when reaching the side position, the crocheting method is the same as for the smallest size. Just pick up the large space to work a leaf and chain. Everyone, finish the first round. Then crochet the second round. First work a slip stitch transition into the right side chain space. This way the transition is done. After that, except for the starting position, make 3 chains and 2 double crochets. All others crochet a leaf in the chain space, and 1 chain. After finishing, join with a slip stitch. When crocheting the next round, transition to the right side chain space. Follow this method to complete the entire hem. Once the hem is done, start crocheting the shoulder neck area. The front and back pieces have the same crocheting method for the shoulder neck. The shoulder neck is divided into 2 parts. Part 1 is worked back and forth with decreases at the beginning and end. Part 2 is further divided into left and right shoulder neck sections. Here, left and right are divided based on the actual wearing position. Let's start with the first part of the front piece, which is the left shoulder neck. Position the front piece facing you. First, join the yarn. Note that the joining positions differ for the 3 sizes. I'll demonstrate the crochet method here using the small size. We start by joining the yarn at the chain on the right top corner. After joining the yarn, make 3 chains to start. Then starting from the left side, skip 3 stitches and crochet a leaf. When crocheting, weave the yarn tail into your stitches as well. The following crochet method is similar to the side. Everyone follow the chart and crochet until the last leaf. Now I've reached the last leaf. Next, work 1 double crochet in the large chain space on the left to finish. This completes the first row. Now let's crochet the second row. First, chain 3 to start. Then turn the piece over. From now on, pick up chain spaces and crochet leaves and chains accordingly. Everyone follow this method to complete the first part. Note that both sides of the first part require decreases on every row. The joining position for other sizes is in the chain space on the right side of the first row corresponding to the side. After completing, pick up chain spaces and stitches to crochet. The crochet method is the same as for the smallest size. Everyone follow the chart to crochet the first part properly. Now let's crochet the second part. Note that after finishing the small size, the yarn tail is at the left shoulder neck area. We'll start with the left shoulder neck first. Whichever shoulder neck position the yarn tail is at for other sizes, start with that shoulder neck first. This way you don't need to cut the yarn. Here I'll still demonstrate first with the smallest size. Other sizes can follow the demonstration for the smallest size, and then refer to the chart for crocheting. First, make 3 chains to start. Then start crocheting leaves and chains inside the large space on the left side. End the first row with a double crochet in the last stitch. For the second row, first make 3 chains to start. Then start crocheting leaves and chains inside the large space on the left side. Pay attention that after completing several rows, you no longer need to decrease stitches. Everyone should crochet upwards without increasing or decreasing. Keep crocheting until the second to last row. Now only the last row remains. First, make 3 chains to start. Finish with a slip stitch to connect. Then start with the large space on the left side by crocheting 3 double crochets and a chain. Repeat this twice. After that, in the next large space, crochet 3 half double crochets and 1 chain. Finally, pick the large chain space on the left side. Crochet 3 half double crochets again. After finishing, cut the yarn and weave in the ends. For the other side of the neckline and shoulder, find the corresponding chain space. Then join yarn and crochet. The crocheting method is the same. Everyone should refer to the chart and crochet the right neckline and shoulder properly. After finishing the right neckline and shoulder, leave a yarn tail of about 1 meter before cutting the yarn. For connecting later, everyone follow the same method. Refer to the chart and crochet the neckline and shoulders of the back piece completely. After finishing, leave a yarn tail of about 1 meter on the left neckline and shoulder before cutting the yarn. That's all for the neckline and shoulders in the small size. For the other sizes neckline and shoulders, decrease first, then work even without increasing or decreasing in the following rows. The crocheting method for both sides is the same. Everyone please crochet them properly. If you're not sure which neckline and shoulder needs to leave a yarn tail, you can cut the yarn and weave in the ends right after finishing each part. Then join yarn again when connecting. After all the neckline and shoulders are finished, we'll now proceed to connect them. The joining method is the same as the side seam joining method. Let's start by connecting the left neckline and shoulder. Turn the piece to the wrong side. When joining, position the reserved yarn tail towards the right side. For the smallest size, there will be a large space on the right when connecting. Simply draw the reserved yarn tail through the large space. Then make one beginning chain to start, and crochet one single crochet in this large space. Then connect with 3 chains. The following joining steps are all the same. Repeat working single crochets and 3 chains. For other sizes, if there are 3 double crochet positions on the right side, simply draw the yarn tail through the stitch. Then make one beginning chain and crochet a single crochet. After completing, connect with 3 chains. At the final position, insert the hook into the last stitch of the seam. Crochet one single crochet together. This completes the joining. Cut the yarn after finishing. Then weave in the remaining yarn tails. That concludes the explanation for connecting the shoulder neck area. Once the shoulder neck is connected, we'll start crocheting the edging next. The edging includes neckline edging, cuff edging, and hem edging. The crochet method is exactly the same for all of them. I'll demonstrate the neckline edging here. First, turn the piece to the right side. The edging is always worked by picking up the large chain spaces along the edge. We'll start from the back piece. Start joining the yarn at the left side of the junction between part 1 and part 2. After joining the yarn, make 1 chain as your beginning chain, then crochet 1 single crochet. Remember to weave the yarn tail into your stitches as you crochet. After completing the single crochet, continue with 3 chains and 2 double crochets. All in the same large space. We'll consider the area we just crocheted, starting from the single crochet, as a small leaf. The following steps will be repeating this small leaf pattern in each large space. Continue crocheting until reaching the chain space right before the stitch in position of part 2. The next part is the neckline, shoulder connection area of the second section. Here we need to crochet a special small leaf. This means dividing the small leaf across 2 different mesh spaces. First, crochet 1 single crochet, then 3 chains, followed by 1 double crochet. The final double crochet should be worked into the space on the left side. With that, this special small leaf is completed. Continue crocheting regular small leaves downward. When reaching the neckline, shoulder connection area, the left and right sides are chain spaces. We'll crochet regular small leaves as usual. The neckline is made up of these small leaves and special small leaves. The special small leaves only appear at the corners, marked with a star. Crochet all the small leaves along the neckline. Once completed, join with a slip stitch at the single crochet position, and weave in the ends neatly. The joining positions and crocheting methods for other sizes are similar to the small size. Whenever you reach a corner, crochet a special small leaf. Pay attention to the shoulder neck connection position on the front and back pieces. For the medium size, there are 3 double crochet positions on each side. We need to crochet 1 small leaf at the middle boundary. For the rest of the chain spaces, crochet normally. The method for crocheting the edging on the sleeves and hem is the same as the neckline edging. Crochet regular small leaves all along the hem. When reaching the corner on the sleeve, crochet a special small leaf. Refer to the chart, finish the remaining edges, and weave in the ends neatly. That's all for the vest. Finally, let's crochet the bag. Take a look at the finished product. The bag is made up of motifs, sides, bottom edge, strap, lining piece, grid board and a D-ring. First, complete all the crocheted parts. Then proceed to the assembly. Let's start by crocheting the motifs. The motifs here are made with leftover yarn. You can choose the motif style according to your preference. The making method is the same. The crochet method for motifs has been explained earlier. Please crochet 2 motifs first. After the motifs are done, let's crochet the sides. The sides and bottom edge are 3 identical pieces. They are all crocheted back and forth starting with a foundation chain. Finally, work a round of edging. First, chain the corresponding number of stitches. The sample has already been chained here. Next, make 1 chain as your beginning chain. Insert the hook into the back loop of the second last braid to start working single crochets. On this side, you'll work single crochets by picking up 1 loop at a time. We'll work all the remaining braids. Once done, make 1 chain. Then turn the workpiece counterclockwise. When crocheting on the wrong side, the stitches are located at the top left. This row continues to pick up stitches and work single crochets. With this, the second row is done, and we'll continue working back and forth in rows. Keep crocheting until you reach the required number of rows. Since everyone's tension is different, you can refer to the sample, or adjust the number of rows according to your own motif. It can be slightly smaller by 1 single crochet distance than the motif. Don't make it longer than the motif. Everyone please finish it. Next, let's work the edging. The number of rows here is not for reference. Make 1 chain to start. Work single crochets all the way until 1 stitch remains. Now we're at the corresponding position. Here, we need to make a SC3 in 1, which means work 3 single crochets in the same stitch. After completing the 3 single crochets, we're now at the side edge. Between each 2 single crochets on this row, there is a gap. We'll pick up the gap and work a single crochet. Keep working until reaching the top corner position. Now we're at the corresponding position. Here, we need to pick up 2 strands. Work 3 single crochets. Another corner is completed. Next, pick up 2 strands on each row and work single crochets evenly. At the corner position, work 3 single crochets. For the side edge, pick up at the gaps and work single crochets evenly. We'll keep working until reaching the first single crochet. Now I've reached the corresponding position. There's already 1 single crochet worked here at the beginning, so we need to work 2 more single crochets here. After completing, join with a slip stitch to the first stitch. Then cut the yarn and weave in the ends. With that, one side edge is finished. Everyone follow the same method to complete the remaining side edges and bottom edge. Now let's work on the strap. Let's check the finished product. The straps are divided into large and small straps. The large strap is a pre-made finished strap. No crocheting needed. For the small strap, we'll start with a foundation chain and crochet in rounds. The crochet method is similar to crocheting the leaves. Everyone refer to the chart and crochet 2 small straps. After finishing, leave a yarn tail of about 30 centimeters before cutting the yarn. Now it's time for assembly. First, cut the mesh board for the base piece. The mesh board can be slightly smaller than the piece. Place the piece on the mesh board. Use a pen from home. Mark 2 dots to indicate the position. Then cut the mesh board. This is how it's done. Once completed, cut the bottom lining piece with about 1 centimeter extra on the top, bottom, left and right of the mesh board and motif. Bottom lining piece and motif lining piece. Again, you can start by marking 2 dots here. This way the lining piece for the mesh board is cut. Please also cut the motif lining piece. Next, sew the lining piece together. Wrap the mesh board with the lining piece and sew it onto the bottom piece. Before sewing, you can first sew a few stitches to secure it, to prevent it from sewing crooked. Thread the sewing needle with sewing thread, and tie a knot at the end. Here you need to sew by picking up stitches. Leave some space between each stitch while sewing. Check the position as you sew along the edge. Everyone follow this method to sew it properly. When you reach the marked position, remove the marker at that position. This way the bottom lining piece is assembled. Next, attach the small strap. First take out the small strap. I'll still use a sample to demonstrate here. Start sewing from the side with the reserved yarn tail. Leaving about 2 centimeters of space. First take the yarn color for the strap. Around 1 meter of yarn tail. Fold the piece in half, with the right side facing out. Pick up 2 adjacent side stitches, and whip stitch them together. The sewing method is the same as sewing motifs. But here you pick up just one strand of yarn to sew, instead of picking up the entire stitch. Keep sewing until you're about 2 centimeters away from the other side. Now I've reached the corresponding position. Next, attach one end of the small strap to the motif. You can adjust the distance here as you like. Continue sewing with the previously left yarn tail. There's no specific requirement for this sewing. Just make sure it's secure. This secures one end in place. Once done, cut the yarn and weave in the ends. For the small strap on the other side, use the reserved yarn tail to sew it on. That's all for the assembly method of the small strap. Next, assemble the lining piece for the motif. Fold the edge of the lining piece. When sewing, keep some distance between the lining piece and the edge of the motif. The sewing method is the same as for the bottom lining piece. It's also a pick up and sew technique. Before sewing, you can secure the corners with small yarn tails. Follow this method and sew both lining pieces onto the two motifs. After sewing, if you want the lining piece to lie flatter, you can secure the lining piece to the motif using sewing thread. Once all the lining pieces are assembled, it's time to sew the bag body. Let's look at the finished product. Here we use the whip stitch technique, picking up loops. Take the motif and the side piece, and start sewing from the top. Here, use the whip stitch method to pick up two threads and sew them together. First, sew one side. When sewing here, you don't need to match one stitch to another, just keep it flat. At the corner position, simply pick up two threads and sew them as well. Once one side is secured, now it's time to secure the bottom and the motif. Follow this method, keep sewing downward. Now you've reached the final position. Weave in the ends. This completes one side. Use the same method to sew the other side. Finally, join the yarn and sew up the gap on the side. Lastly, assemble the D-ring buckle. The sewing position for the D-ring buckle is around the center, about 2 centimeters away from the top. I'll still use this sample to demonstrate how to sew the D-ring buckle. Again, there's no special requirement here, just make sure it's securely attached. Once it's sewn on, cut the yarn and weave in the ends. Please sew both D-ring buckles in place. That concludes the explanation of this product. If you have any questions during the process, don't hesitate to reach us via our website, Susan's Family. Supporting your handwork experience, sharing the joy of life. Thank you for watching. See you in the next episode.